Hello there. I'm Shirtless Woodman, and I'd like to welcome you to this Talking with Famous People live stream. As you can see, I have no shirt, and I am wood and a man, hence my name, Shirtless Woodman, hero of the nether realms, hero to all who know the ways of the woods, the ways of the forest, the ways of men, the ways of clothing. I am their hero. I am Shirtless Woodman, being of great importance. And I'm host Eric, host Talking to Famous People. And like Shirtless Woodman, I'm concerned with issues of importance. Now, the fundamental question is importance important or just portentous? It's a difficult question to answer, right? Sure, there's port in it either way. Well, you're important. I mean, that goes without saying. But are you portentous? Does your arrival portend doom or good fortune? Brenda Lee! Hello, Eric! Hello, Brenda Lee! We're talking about importance today. Brenda Lee, are you important? Or do you have portent? Or importance? Or are you good fortune? Oh, cool. So you're a harbinger of good fortune. That's much better than a harbinger of doom. Don't be a harbinger. No one likes a harbinger. They're always bringing good fortune. Oh, Jeebus, I'm sorry. I must have misspelled it for you. Jeebus made the smart decision today, and he texted me and said, "Hey, if you're not going to start that live stream, why don't you give me a password to your YouTube account, and then I'll just start it for you." So I gave it to him. And it's the number 4, then the word for, then the word for, the preposition, then the words all caps but in lowercase, and then the words no spaces but a space between each of the letters, and then the words Eric loves Jeebus, alternating lowercase and caps, with the E's spelled with 3s and the S spelled with a 5. And then at the end of that, it says underscore the word, then underscore the underscore, and then all caps in all caps. And then the 4s again, but the other direction. This time 4 like in golf, then for the preposition, then for the number word, then for the numeral. Well, just think about it. It's a simple question. Is importance important? Is it important to concern yourself with the matters of importance? Or is it just portentous? In other words, something like that. That's pretty close, Jeebus. Yeah. Except the golf 4 is FORE. Okay. It's got the word before in it, but it's bee like a honeybee and 4 like 4 and golf. That makes it confusing when I try to tell people. Eric, do you agree love is conditional? I would say that's a good question. Is love conditional? Not when it's done properly. Not really. If love were conditional, for example, as my mother becomes increasingly burdensome and less of an asset in my life, or an asset in the family, or useful in some regard, I nevertheless am loving towards her. It's unconditional in that regard. Now, Jeeva says if somebody screws you over, then you don't love them anymore. Well, it's true that betrayal can ruin a relationship, but I don't think it necessarily ruins the emotion of love, although it will, eventually. But certainly romantic love is a lot more conditional than other kinds of love. Marriage is no longer the unconditional family bond that it once was a long time ago. My parents have been together for over 50 years now. And, you know, I don't think they ever really seriously considered getting divorced. Although that shit was not that uncommon when I was a kid. It was still a little bit scandalous. Like, oh my God, they're getting divorced? But, it still happened. I've had I'm on my third serious, well, I mean, really my fourth long-term serious relationship. Two previous were marriages, and one previous was a girlfriend. And there's no disputing the fact that my love was conditional in my previous relationships, although I didn't leave either of those relationships. The women did. And I have no feelings towards either of them anymore. And I feel no responsibility towards them. But I feel like Kimberly's a little bit different. And I don't see us breaking up. And I see us taking care of each other if the need arises. So what I mean by that is, as per my mom, right? My mom is extremely well cared for and loved by all the family members. My dad, me, Delilah, Kimberly. We all make sure she's happy. We prioritize her well-being, despite the fact that it's a one direction street as far as give and take, right? Okay. So yeah, romantic love I think can be unconditional, but it's something that has to grow into unconditionality because you're not born into that family and stuff. And family love is not necessarily unconditional. My family love is. Like my parents and me and my daughter, or the four of us, comprise really the whole of the family and the biological family. And so yeah, I've got a biological aunt, one, and her husband, and they didn't have any kids of their own. They adopted, and so I don't even have any biological cousins. Kimberly is a swell lady. She's a swell lady, and it's not been an easy relationship, but things are so much better now. And it's like we're done with the power struggle phase. The power struggle phase of any relationship is a challenge, and I think probably everybody goes through it. And it can be very difficult to get past, and it can persist for a long time. Let's see. Hey, looking so dapper in the hat. Thank you, Sheila W. I was going for dapper. So it sounds like I succeeded. Basically, importance is about the pursuit for meaning. Well, importance, I'm actually somewhat serious in my talking about importance as a topic, and I'm glad you asked me more about it because to some extent, that's what the ENTP blind spot is importance. What's genuinely important to us, and what ought we prioritize at any given moment or whatever. Now, when I was walking into the house earlier today, I paused to pick up a broom that Kimberly had left in like the worst possible space, as she often does this kind of stupid shit, where it's like, here, put the broom here, and then it falls over because it's got a hinge on this thing. So, and then it falls, so it's like, you can't walk into the back door without tripping over it, basically. So I stop and I pick it up and I move it out of the way. And it occurred to me at that moment that the reason I'm a dual to the ISFJ is because I don't know. I don't care whether I have to do that again or not. I don't care if I got to do that all the time. It doesn't seem to matter. I won't do it if I don't feel like it, and I will. I'm been known to leave shit like that, But generally, I'm sort of cleaning up after Kimberly's TE disaster on an ongoing basis. Now, keep in mind, she's cleaning up after my SI shortcomings, and that's fine. And she probably has an equivalent experience with my polar FI that I'm just not really aware of, just as she's not really aware of the fact that she's doing this stuff. So, but it's necessary for me to not really care about using my time in an important fashion in order for me to be successfully mated with this person in that regard. She wants me to help her with various things, and I often do, and I might not think they're important, but it's important to make her happy. The feeling love is only able to be nurtured when expectations are respected. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Bruno Lee. I think that the feeling love is only able to be nurtured when both parties are actively trying to let their partner escape their failures. And so it's like what the big difference that was made in my relationship was when I stopped trying to pin Kimberly down on her failures and instead said nothing and gave her a chance to sort of backpedal or express regret in nonverbal ways or whatever. And prior to that, I had been trying to say, like, Kimberly, prior to that, I had been trying to make her accountable. I was talking about accountability. You've got to be accountable, Kimberly. Well, nobody wants to lose the power struggle. And that's what I was trying to do, is ultimately win the power struggle. And I was allowing my resentments to drive my behaviors. In the moment, I'd feel resentful because I felt as though, Kimberly was being unfair and was wrong and not acknowledging or whatever. And all that stuff may have been true, but that wasn't a solvency-oriented approach. In other words, that was me trapping her in her failures, like calling her out on her failures and saying, aha, see. And so the most significant thing was to be the teammate that I wanted her to be as well. And that means excuse my opponent's failures. My opponent. I just got back from work, debate class. Excuse my partner's failures and don't call her out when she makes a mistake verbally and says something that's kind of attacky. Let it sit there and let her come to the conclusion herself. Eric, what was I saying about importance? Just that importance is a critical issue to an EHP because it's polar, basically. Your feelings are what makes things important to you. Now, yeah, I was coaching debate tonight. I don't pin her down. I don't try to get her. I don't try to win the battle. I try to be non-reflexive, historically my reflex, if she crosses certain boundaries, in other words, doesn't meet my expectations, and especially if my expectations are in alignment with like what everybody says is healthy or whatever, then my reflex is to correct. But correction can be interpreted as a form of criticism, and criticism ultimately kills love. If two people in a relationship spend all their time criticizing each other, they aren't going to be very loving towards one another, and eventually they'll break up. Let me continue reading. The Buddhist, love is like a street that has been properly put in place. No cracks, just a ton of weight putting pressure on it. It's a pretty good metaphor there. Just think about it. I like it. The Buddhist told me to stop desiring not to desire about not desiring. Well, did you ask him? Okay, because if you asked, you can't complain about the answer, really. Now, if he just volunteered that unsolicited, then okay, he's deserving of a little critique. And again, here, I've never pursued my previous relationships. I just let things happen, but they didn't work out well. Well, maybe you should be willful and intentional in your relationship-iness rather than let the slabs do it. I'm a little let the slabs do it too, but sometimes the slabs
aren't quick enough.
Yeah, or just they take their time. My husband is your chaos. Your husband is your chaos monkey, says Sheila W. Like I'm always putting out his fires. We're always putting out each other's fires. He's probably putting out yours too, right? Like I was saying, the reason she mentioned that, Kim, is because earlier I was talking about how you left a broom and typically like immediately trip over its place, and
on the porch.
Yeah, and I put it back where it should be, and
yeah, I was in the middle of sweeping and my client showed up, so I stopped.
Sure. So my point was that I don't really mind cleaning up after your TE mess, and that you have an equivalent FI mess of mine that you got to clean up after, I guess.
Well, I usually have to clean up your
SI
mess.
My SI mess, yeah. Kimberly is in the house.
Trailing of the clothing and belts on every hook and keys behind the doors and.
Well, see, Matthew really explains the spirit. Maybe I'm delving, or I'm emerging from the same pool of spirit, which is, he says, I leave obstacles around the house intentionally. I like living in an obstacle course because there's no fun just walking straight line from one place to another. You have to jump over shit, No. It's good exercise too.
Well, then you can go live in Delilah's room.
That's true. Whoa, says Howdy Dude. Whoa to you too. Are you playing Joey Lawrence? Whoa. Ha 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 ha. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ha 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 ha. Oh my god. I failed at sexual humor, I guess, said Matthew Allister. Oh, you're referring to your previous statement. You don't pin her down on her failures? What do you pin her down on now?
The bed.
That's what Howdy Do said. Some low-hanging fruit, friends. Really? What's important to us is intrinsic, and we figure it out and do it. We are fulfilling top tier on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization. I mean, sure, it's true that what's important to us is intrinsic, sort of. I mean, it's also slab related. It's a continuation of your existing narratives. So that's to be remembered as well. The thing is, what's important to us may be intrinsic in the sense that it's important to me to create, for example, but which creative endeavor, which creative project ought I prioritize is a trickier question. And what do I feel like doing, and whether I ought to prioritize what I feel like doing versus what I think is more